All right, everybody, let's be honest for a second. Who doesn't want to see the future? And how can we do that? Well, maybe we can by looking at the past, right? And that's exactly what we're going to do today as we dive into one of the biggest rivalries in college football, Alabama versus Georgia.
That's right. We're talking pregame analysis. We've got live updates, postgame reactions. We're going to break it all down.
This isn't just about who won and who lost. We're talking about the coaches, the players, the fans. What does this game mean for the SEC? The playoffs.
And this is a big one. This isn't just any old game. We're talking Alabama. We're talking Georgia. These programs are NFL factories.
You're not kidding. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
National championships, legendary coaches, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. These guys are icons.
And this year, the hype was real, even before the game started. I mean, Lane Kiffin's out there making predictions. We got a former president in the stands. The college game day crew's going crazy.
Even Terry, our guest picker, he hopped on that Alabama bandwagon. But, you mentioned the hype, and you're right. A lot of the pregame buzz was all about the coaches, right? DeBoer versus Smart, that's a clash of styles.
Yeah, absolutely. You got DeBoer, brand new to the SEC, going up against a defensive genius and Kirby Smart. There's a lot of pressure there.
I mean, let's be real. Georgia's defense was supposed to be the best in the country. In fact, I'm looking at the pregame reports right now. A lot of analysts were saying they were going to be unbeatable. So you've got this unstoppable force, and then you've got Alabama. So what happened when they actually got on the field?
Well, the first half, you could say it was a clinic on offense by Alabama. They were dominant.
I mean, they were unbelievable. Jalen Milroe, he was on fire. Passing touchdowns, running touchdowns. Was he even on the radar in the pregame analysis?
Honestly, I don't think anybody expected him to play that well. He torched Georgia's defense, and that wasn't by accident. DeBoer, their coach, he had a game plan, and they executed it perfectly. Yeah. If you look closely, Georgia's secondary was vulnerable to the deep ball, and, well, Milroe, he picked them apart.
So DeBoer knew what he was doing. Milroe played out of his mind what was going on with Georgia. I felt like every time they got something going, a penalty or a turnover, just killed it.
Yeah, you're right. Those turnovers were backbreakers. Every time Georgia would get some momentum, they'd fumble or throw an interception, and it just shifted everything back to Alabama.
I'm looking at the live updates here, and one thing that really stands out is this amazing catch by Ryan Williams. I mean, we're talking catch of the year material. Did the pregame reports mention him at all?
It's funny you should say that, because there was some talk about him. Some scouts were saying he had great hands, but to do that in a game like this, I mean, that's what separates the good from the great right there. And you talk about the atmosphere. After that catch, that place was electric.
The live updates even mention some, let's just say some spirited exchanges between the teams. Sounds like things were getting a little chippy out there. So Alabama's walking into halftime up 30-7. Georgia's got a lot of work to do. Did our sources say anything about what went on in that locker room? Any crazy speeches, any big adjustments?
We might not have the cameras in there, but Kirby Smart wasn't exactly handing out cookies. Whatever he said, it seemed to work, at least for a little while.
You're right. Georgia came out swinging in that third quarter, finally started putting some drives together. Did they completely change the game plan, or is it more about just, tightening things up?
It was a little both, actually. One big thing they started doing, and this is where it helps to be a football nerd, they started using a lot more pre-snap motion. Basically, they were moving guys around before the snap, trying to confuse Alabama's defense.
Interesting. So they were trying to create some chaos.
Exactly. Make Alabama think, make them adjust on the fly. And it worked, at least for a little bit. They were able to open up some holes in that secondary, and Georgia's offense finally started clicking.
Gotcha. So it wasn't just effort. There was some strategy involved there. I like it.
Absolutely. And you got to give credit to Georgia's defense, too. They stepped up their game in the second half as well. They started blitzing Milroe more, bringing pressure from everywhere. And it seemed like it threw off Alabama's rhythm a little bit.
But Alabama's Alabama. They weren't going to go down without a fight.
Oh, yeah. And that's when this game turned into a chess match between DeBoer and Smart. Georgia would make an adjustment. Alabama would counter. It was high-level coaching all around.
And then we get this crazy sequence. Alabama actually gets 2 points on an intentional grounding call against Georgia in their own end zone. Talk about a momentum killer. When I saw that in the live updates, I was like, man, that's got to be tough for Georgia to come back from.
It was a wild turn of events. And it just goes to show you how fast things can change in football. 1 minute, Georgia's moving the ball, feeling good. The next minute, bam, they're down by 3 scores again.
You talk about momentum. The score still wasn't really reflecting how close this game had become. Georgia managed to close the gap to 8 points in the fourth quarter, and suddenly, anything felt possible. Did the pregame analysis, did they see this coming? Did anybody think Georgia had a chance for an upset?
A lot of people thought it was going to be a close game, even some of the folks who picked Alabama. But I think what surprised everyone, even the experts, was how back and forth this game was. Nobody expected Alabama to come out like they did in the first half, and nobody expected Georgia to claw their way back into it like they did.
So the experts are right about it being a close game, but not for the reasons they thought. That's fascinating. What was the deciding factor? What ultimately won it for Alabama? So much to talk about with this game, right? We saw big plays, emotional roller coasters, even a former president enjoying the game. But when push came to shove, what won it for Alabama?
You know, it's easy to get caught up in all the excitement, but at the end of the day, Alabama won this game where it matters most, in the trenches. They controlled that line of scrimmage, especially late in the game, and that let them control everything else.
So even when Georgia was coming back, Alabama was able to just kind of impose their will, grind it out.
Exactly. It was a clinic, a testament to their O-line, their running backs. And got to give DeBoer credit, he stuck with the run even when Georgia knew it was coming.
It's easy to overlook the fundamentals sometimes, but you're right, that was huge. And you got to think, a win like this against a top team on a national stage, that's got to be massive for Alabama.
No doubt. They made a statement to the SEC, to the whole country even, that they are still here, they are a contender. This win, it puts them right in the thick of the playoff race. And, you know, it's got to give them a ton of confidence.
New coach, same old tide. But what about Georgia? First loss of the season. How do they bounce back from this?
It's a tough one, no question. But, you know, this is still a very, very good Georgia team. They were undefeated for a reason. Great coaching, a lot of experience on the roster. They're going to be just fine. If anything, this might be the wake-up call they needed, you know? You can't just rely on defense alone.
That's the beauty of college football, though, right? I mean, look at this game. Nobody expected this. The way Alabama just exploded on offense, Georgia's comeback, the back and forth, crazy. Thinking back to all the pregame stuff, what surprised you the most?
You know, honestly, I think I was most surprised by Alabama's offense and how they were able to basically pick apart a defense as good as Georgia's. I mean, this is a first-year SEC coach. Nobody saw that coming. It's going to be really interesting to see if they can keep that up.
Yeah, good point. I'm with you on that. Anything else that caught you off guard?
You know, I got to say, Georgia, they impressed me with their fight. I mean, even down multiple scores, they never quit. They kept battling, made it a game. Real testament to their coach, their players, their, I don't know, just their heart.
Absolutely. It takes a special team to almost pull off a comeback like that. All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember about this game?
I think the big thing here is that in college football, any given Saturday, right? We saw it here, all the predictions, all the analysis, it goes out the window when those teams step on the field.
So much for those crystal balls.
Exactly. That's why we love this sport, though. The upsets, the comebacks, you never know what's going to happen.
You said it. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's going to be a wild rest of the season. We'll catch you next time.